Now you're, not only that, you're
Yeah.
recording
Okay.
for prosperity. You're all here. Did y'all see them?
Yes.
It's so important. Ah. So, okay. So let's take a moment to set a positive motivation to really think about why you show up and whatever the reason is, to make, resolve to use your time well with respect to that reason. For me, Sunday teachings at my home center and just in general are like my Dharma booster shot every week. It's sort of like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm a Buddhist. Because most of us don't have friends and family that are also Buddhist. Nobody in my family is Buddhist. I don't. So other than my, when I occasionally see you guys, or when I do a FaceTime with the nuns back in North Carolina, I don't have anybody to talk the Dharma to. So, so having a place to touch base with real people, is really important, I think, to a practice that's not part of our general culture, so especially because we get so much input from so many sources, whether it's the internet or TV or just, the office talk and all stuff, that doesn't really support our practice. So it's really helpful to be able to touch base with, just so you don't feel like, am I out of my mind for thinking, the world has, there's something more important than just, success or the way we define success. So set your intention. I was going to help it. And has Lee signed a waiver, so if he falls off the chair, or the chair breaks, it's, we don't get sued. He's sitting on a couple of cushions on his chair. So, have you ever seen somebody's chair collapse underneath them?
Many times.
I had a friend who stood on, a friend of my brother's, who sat on a stool in our house, a wooden stool, and the four legs just went. And it was a tall stool. So it was pretty funny. Fortunately, he was not hurt. Anyway. So try to generate a mind that really wishes to alleviate their own suffering. That, please, may whatever I do help me reduce my suffering. May whatever I do not harm others. May I start all actions with peace. With openness. With wisdom. May I recognize the suffering in others as if it's my own. And wish to alleviate it. Check in with your body, see how it's doing. Is your mind present here with your body? Is it somewhere else? Notice if you're thinking about the past or the future. Be aware of your breath. Think how wonderful it is that you're able to breathe. Now let's recite the four immeasurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends, for enemies. So, those comfortable doing so, recite the refuge and bodhicitta prayer. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Does anybody wonder why we do this? Everybody knows why we do this.
I do not.
This is the prostration mudra. Prostration mudra. So you have the body mudra where you actually do a physical prostration. You know, you have words of homage, which are the, speech, verbal prostration. And then the hand mudra is at the heart chakra. So that's why we do that. We don't have to do it in the four immeasurables. I just do, but refuge, this is one of those ways you show respect, just like prostrating at the beginning of a teaching. So and you think method and wisdom. You're also, or it's method and wisdom and method. Method's the same as compassion. I believe I have to remember which hand do I hold the bell in. That's the female side, the mother side, the wisdom side, and the right is the method side, compassion. Okay. Oops, now I have to shrink my screen. No. All right. So we've been talking about various things. What in the world have we been talking about? Last week, I was trying to talk about the different decisions we have to make, or what we can look at as decisions to make in order to put into practice what we hear, what resonates with us in the teachings, so that we, and one of the things I think that we don't do well in the society, although I think we're getting better, is really consider self-care of the mind important, and one of the reasons it's important is because we can reduce our suffering by taking care of our mind. So it's not that we're out of the picture. So this idea that happiness is found by cherishing others, it doesn't mean that we don't need to take care of ourselves. And because we don't seem to naturally do that in this society, we have a lot of, especially been raised to help others, have a lot of difficulty sometimes thinking that we should take care of ourselves, or that it's somehow selfish to take care of ourselves. And so we do want to be able to check and see, am I indulging myself? Am I just thinking of myself? Am I just, not worrying about anybody else because, I'm sorry, I need to take care of myself first. We want to look out for that kind of self-centeredness, but taking care of our minds sort of will help us make sure we're taking care of ourselves so that we have the rest, the fuel, what we need in order to wise and compassionate and not have, compassion fatigue or whatever, So one of the things I think is important that we talked about last week, I think, is that we really need to develop equanimity towards ourselves so that when we're, really trash talking ourselves in our mind, we need to recognize that's not helpful, and that actually does harm. And then also when we're walking around like, full of, an inflated ego, that's not helpful either. And they're usually just this, roller coaster between the two in order, because we, it's like we can't stay down forever and then we can't stay up forever. So we kind of go back and forth and neither is healthy, We really want to have a balanced view of ourselves where we recognize our strengths, where we acknowledge our weaknesses, where we, rejoice in our strengths, be happy about them, don't see our weaknesses as some sort of permanent flaw, or some, or some sort of judgment about our worth. Because that's one of the mistakes we make, is that we judge ourselves by these random thoughts that we have that are usually negative or overinflated. So we want to make a decision to really try to take care of ourselves and to be kind to ourselves, to recognize that we have limits, that we're not Buddhas yet, we'll make mistakes, all sorts of things, and that it's okay, doesn't matter. We have Buddha potential. We don't have to worry about not having the capacity for change. We have the capacity for change, but we don't need to change everything. We have a lot of good qualities that if we take good care of ourselves, they'll have the energy to manifest, as opposed to impatience or crankiness or, just exhaustion. And we do want to look at our self-centeredness when we realize that we are taking the center of everything, especially if we're having any problems in any relationships. We want to kind of look at, where am I in this picture, to see if we're part of the communication issues, or whether we're, are we being indifferent for the needs of others, So we definitely want to, see how that is interrelated to our suffering when we put ourselves above everybody else. And it's everybody else and still have low self-esteem. Here we are, we're a mixture of stuff, so we have to recognize both, that taking care of the self by not beating oneself up for our limitations, all that kind of stuff is not self-centeredness. It's really a reaction to a false sense of self. We beat ourselves up because when we do something wrong, we superimpose this idea that we are that mistake, that we'll never get it right, what a jerk we are because we'd even make that mistake, blah, blah, blah. We equate ourselves with the limitations, or we equate ourselves with the successes, as opposed to just recognizing they're all just moments of causes and conditions coming together. They're just dependent arisings. Some are wonderful to rejoice over, oh, this is good news, kind of thing. But none of them need to be grasped after. We're just a series of moments. And we want to be much more aware of those moments, because if we pause, we can choose our next, how we want the next moment, what direction we want it to go in. So we have to choose that. So when we see ourselves being self-centered, we might want to go, well, yeah, I really would prefer not to be like that. So how can I do this differently? And again, we have to think about these things, and we have to make a decision, and we have to see what's my obstacle to that. If we're afraid, or if we think nobody will help us, or if we, whatever it is that gets in the way, we want to discover what that is so that we can work with that issue. Because we need to take care of ourselves when we're afraid or when we're angry. We need to see, that it's that letting those states of mind be fed leads to more unhappiness. And we have to commit to working on ourselves. It's sort of like, it's no good for me to just come in and have a Dharma booster shot and then do nothing the rest of the week. I won't get very far, and it just becomes one of those things like when you watch something inspiring, you go, oh, isn't that wonderful? And then you can't even remember the story, 2 hours later when you're trying to tell someone, oh, I saw this on this documentary, and this is, and you can't even remember it because it's, you just haven't taken it in. Oh, it would be good to be like that. What can I do to be more like that? What gets in my way of being like that? We want to constantly investigate. And we want to cultivate attraction towards things in people and attitudes and habits that benefit ourselves and others, so that we'll want to do them again. This is one of the big purposes of rejoicing at the end of the day, about all the things that you kind of went in the right direction, or the direction you're choosing. And so you can kind of go, oh yeah, I kind of like the way I feel about that. I was listening to a teaching the other day, and I was having such fun, I'm going, I need to remember this. I really enjoy this. It's one of my favorite things to do, because sometimes you have that, oh, do I have to really, that sounds like work, you don't want to listen to the teaching. So, and that's a terrible habit. And if you're a nun, it's like the worst habit to have. So, but inspiring ourselves to keep wanting to, get a better hang of things, become more like where you want to go. Because that acknowledges we're capable of change. Because sometimes we talk ourselves out of trying because we don't really think we can change. And so then that whole cycle starts again. We have to get back to being kind to yourself, recognizing, yes, you have limitations, but no, it doesn't mean you can't change. And then in Buddhism, of course, we really want to look at this false sense of me. What the Buddha says is the actual root of all of our dissatisfaction is this ignorance about how we actually exist, that we hold the self in a way that's impossible to exist. We put on to the self, meaning that isn't there. It's literally just a name. No more than that. So just like if your name is Jack, you know, and you didn't pick that name, it was chosen for you, you know, it just arises, you know, and so before you were actually given a name, you didn't have a name, and then you had the name Jack. No. So does that have any meaning? Did the parents sit around waiting till, you know, okay, let's wait for this little baby to tell us what name it is? No, it doesn't come from the side of the baby. Nothing comes from the side of the object. No,
Nothing.
nothing. Nothing. It all comes, you know, from our, you know, what do they call it? Language and conception. This is kind of hard to get the mind around because we grasp at things, you know, this is a cup of water. What happened to my cup? You couldn't find it. Oh, how disastrous. I may have to cry.
Do you want me to run and get it?
Mhm,
So you'll be okay?
mhm. Oh,
It's gone.
you think it's
I think I
gone?
saw it on the.
Probably, because like I'll leave it somewhere, like, you know, like by the tea stand or something, and nobody realizes, oh, it's the teacher's cup. They're supposed to wash it, you know. I just leave it there, like, you know, I'm the grandpa of, you know. I could like leave it here, couldn't I? I never think of that because I want the water. So this, you know, but this is what it's like, right? So it's my cup. I'm the teacher. I don't have to wash my own cup because, you know, we should get some perks. So, you know, I should be able to leave it wherever I want and it will still magically appear for me, clean with fresh water in it. It's hilarious. And if you believe that, you can get really miffed, you know, if it doesn't happen. You know, you can take it personally, like, am I going to get a pink slip? You know, it's just, you know, it's really hilarious how we just, because we think that, oh, but I am this. I should be treated this way. And if we're not, then it's like, I've done something wrong. I can be one track, or they've done everything wrong. That can be the other track. You know, we just have to look at what our mind's doing, because it's all about our conception. It's coming from my side, certainly not the cup side. Yeah. Really looking at how important we make our sense of self. We need a healthy sense of self. That's, I mean, we exist. We need to, you know, recognize that our actions have impacts on ourselves and others. You know, we need to know all that, but we need to understand that this exaggerated sense of self, as if you could actually point to a person and go, that's Jack. What are you pointing at? We'll get technical.
Personality.
Body.
The body, the form. We recognize people from the form. You know, we see someone walking down the street and we think, oh, that's Jack. And then they get a little closer and you go, no, it's not Jack. So we're, you know, we're responding to the form. But so you point at the body. Now you might be having a, you know, why do I like Jack? You know, and then, you know, you might be thinking about personality, or you might be thinking about whatever. But still, is that Jack? Is that all of Jack? You know, we really do think that we can identify ourselves and someone else and fix it. You know, this is Jack.
I'm always thinking about this question, and recently what I find helpful to return to is, when I'm contemplating emptiness, is when you've been insulted. When
Yep.
you've been insulted, it's like, my body, not my consciousness. So I feel like that's always a good way to sort of guide me along the path, because I do find that I gravitate to the extremes. Like, well, it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter as much as I think. It's like that exaggerated self.
Well, and we also have to see, does it really matter at all? Do you think a Buddha cares? If someone insults the Buddha, you think Buddha goes, oh, that's important? No, never. Wouldn't occur to him or her or it. You know? But that's, I mean, it's true. It's like if you really react to being, criticized or feel like you've been snubbed or, God, they didn't even look for my cup. You want to get at that sense of me that you're thinking in that moment. Why didn't they think about me? Why don't they know that this glass of water is going to get warm if we, it's just sitting here in an ordinary glass? That sense of I've been injured. I've been, what is it? Nobody cares. You want, when those moments happen, you want to go, who is that I that's been injured? And is it true?
Charlie
Poor Charlie Brown.
Brown.
Yeah.
So I guess the conundrum I'll sometimes find myself thinking, who thinks them like the rationalist or the person, the conventional thought is, well, this experience will impact future experiences. So sort of hard to think in that way, that it doesn't matter at all.
Well, it only will affect your future experiences if it matters. If we cling to it, it's going to happen again. This is psychoexistence. That's exactly how it is. As soon as we grasp, we're creating the cause for that moment to come again. It won't be the same moment, but it'll be a similar moment, because we're grasping at this I'm sorry, I exist as a concrete person who can be insulted. It's not that people can't use insulting words, but the whole thing of insult, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Sticks and stones.
Well, that's a choice. We could think it doesn't mean anything because it doesn't actually hurt us. Words can't really hurt us. What do we think? Why do we even have the word insult in our dictionary?
Protect our eye. I feel like our eye was attacked. I feel like someone tried to make it less than it was.
Yeah. They're not recognizing who I really am. And they've come to this conclusion that's wrong. And it's actually demeaning or degrading or, it's degenerate. What the word is. If we allow other people's words to define our sense of self, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, so in the Discovering Buddha's class 2 weeks ago, he mentioned something. He goes, if someone gets us with a stick, we don't get mad at the stick, we get mad at the person. And then I meditated on it and I started to realize, if I see everyone as a stick, there's no reason to be mad at them. I make up they're the one hitting me, but they're actually the stick. I'm the one hitting me with whatever deciding their insult is or their whatever.
You're interpreting the action of the stick or the experience of the stick. And we have choice there. Is this where we have a lot of power, folks? Is that we don't have to take someone else's version of events as the truth. And we don't have to be fussed by their version of events. We don't have to let it affect us. It doesn't mean we don't correct if there's a mistake that's been made or whatever, but there's a huge difference between being able to speak up and say, well, that's actually not true, and feeling like I've been insulted. There's a huge difference between those two things. One's grasping at this yeah.
Just wondering, is there anything that we should take as personal?
No,
It's good.
Yeah, this is what's wonderful.
Now,
This is what's wonderful about emptiness, you know? We aren't any fixed thing. So people's words, their assessments of us, it's not that they're totally useless. You know, we take people's information. If someone insults us, we might go, oh, you know, I may have hurt them some way or whatever. You know, we might you might want to think about the words, not the tone, but just, whatever. So we learn from it. But to think that it's some sort of an accurate assessment of you.
Would it be true sometimes?
It's only true from that person's perspective. Now, how we take it is only true from our perspective. They are not ultimately true at all. So, I mean, this is, if a disturbing emotion arises, like feeling insulted, that's a distortion. If we're agitated, we are not able to see clearly. So the more that we can accept that things actually, and words particularly, are not the bottom line.
I came to this a while ago that usually if somebody says something that's insulting, whether it's to me or anybody else, it's usually about them.
Of course, it's only about them. Something has happened in perhaps an interaction with you, perhaps not. That's been a condition for some disturbing emotion to arise, and this is how they're expressing it. But it's all about them. They felt that they didn't get what they needed, and it's your fault.
How do you tap into your understanding of things or your Buddhist teachings and knowledge in the midst of these moments? It feels like
You work on your disturbing emotion. So as soon as a disturbing emotion feels like that, as soon as that I rears its head, you want to be able to go, okay, I can't trust my thinking right now, whether it's about something good or bad. I'm going to exaggerate whatever I'm experiencing to make and grasp after it. One of you two.
You say that there are character defects people have though, so
They're not character defects.
100 people telling them a certain way, do I take something out from that?
Oh, yeah, you should learn from it. We don't have character defects. We have habits of mind and habits of body, speech, and mind that are unskillful, and we have some that are skillful. Sometimes we're just flat out wrong. Our knowledge is wrong, those kind of things. You move to a different culture, all your different social skills all of a sudden go out the window, because they're not relevant where you now are. Also, so it's not that we can't learn from other people's remarks. It's this idea that, wait a minute, they're saying, I'm like this. It's that grasping at a sense of I that doesn't exist. If you hear the words and go, maybe I should look at this. Maybe this is why, I have difficulty communicating with others about whatever, because it's useful information. And the beauty of it is you can change what you do. Might be hard, might be easy. It just depends on what it is. It's this grasping at this idea that they can't be talking about me. I'm not like that. That's an I that doesn't exist. Thinking that there is such a person, because we think it's over here, don't we? It's not this body, it's not these clothes, it's not anything. But there's this me here that happens to own this body of mine, you know? But your opinion of this me, you know, is everything. This is why the Buddha said reputation's the last thing for us to let go of. We can't stand it if we feel like our reputation's being marred. And it's because it hits right at that self-grasping I, you know, our sense of ourselves. And we need to develop a worthiness that isn't based on this false I. And the only way to do that is to have a balanced sense of I, to recognize that sometimes we do the right thing, sometimes we do the wrong thing, you know, that maybe we want to try to learn how to be more skillful, maybe we don't. You know, we need to have an accurate sense of where we are.
My friend who's a Pollyanna occasionally says, did I give you permission to make me upset?
And you can always say, that's up to you. You know, I mean, this is the thing, but we really, really hold on to this version of ourselves. We can't describe it because it doesn't exist. But we feel like it gets harmed, hurt, heartbroken, insulted, praised, you know. We need awards for those days we do everything well, you know. It puts us on that roller coaster. Whereas if we develop an inner sense of self that is balanced, that isn't dependent upon anything but understanding that, you know, we have value and we can do better. You know, so I'm going to try to aim to do better. Yes.
So so not taking it personally and being disturbed or mentally is one way. But then if we keep quiet, isn't that the encouragement for the person behaving?
Why so?
Because it happens, we don't stop or tell the other.
What if you
person,
don't
"It's not
react?
acceptable."
What does then you just don't keep not reacting? So
I'm
what?
saying
So what? We have to really get there. It's not about fixing them. We can put them in their place. And then what are we? We're doing exactly to them what they did to us. And that cycle keeps going. You know, turning the wheel of sharp weapons. It just keeps going. It isn't that we have to take abuse. We can say, sorry, you know, I don't appreciate this conversation and I'm going to walk away. And you may have to quit your job, you know. The point is, it doesn't have to, you don't have to get invested in whether they change or not. Your sense of worth doesn't depend on their opinion. You know, the sense that we should be able to fix other people and make them act right is a source of suffering. We don't have that kind of control. And this desire to make it so is craving. And that's a mind of suffering. If our happiness depends on something changing, we'll never be happy. Because it's never going to change, you know, in the way you want it. It's always going to change, but it's never going to change. Expectations do that. Did you have something? Yes, yes, that's all we can do. So that's one of the things that we really want to decide about, is that we decide about our self-worth based on our own actions of body, speech, and mind. Whether we want, whether we feel good about this decision, that decision, about these words, those conversations, and not based on whether someone else is happy with you or not. Because the reality is we can do everything right and somebody might get pissed off. Why is that? Because they have their own stuff. They're the center of their universe, not you. And it's a false sense of I that puts us in the center, that thinks that the world revolves around us. Most people don't even notice us. If the reality of thinking that someone actually is thinking about you when they're talking to you is kind of a myth. They're thinking about themselves, just like you are. When you're sitting there listening to somebody and you're thinking about what you're going to say, you're not listening. You're thinking about yourself. And we live like that a lot of the time. I mean, we have to learn how to actually listen, to just sit there and hear someone else's point of view and not be planning what we're going to say or respond.
Waiting for them to shut up.
Well, yeah, really. That's true. So, again, though, I mean, clearly, we're not supposed, we don't need to stand around and take abuse. But if we get hooked by it, if we just, we kind of go, how dare they? Or I'm not like that. Our disturbing emotions have been stirred up. And we need to know that they're not reliable. So we don't want to act from that place. That's okay. If it's, but if you want to, if you're trying to figure out, is there any truth to this? You say, well, I'm going to need to think about that. Without sarcasm, without any attack back. So usually that means for most of us, when we're starting, we have to just not say anything because we can't keep that, So sometimes we can just say, oh, I'm surprised that, that you just said that. So I'm gonna have to think about that. But if we get, or if our habit, and this is not unusual at all, our habit is to somehow think they need to change. And that starts a different kind of cycle. That's not helpful. Because that's just blaming others, externals, for how we're feeling. Say something extreme, Graziella.
Because, like, let us say, physically, that's so obvious. Someone is beating somebody up.
Yes.
That is obviously we're going to say at that moment, you got to change that. There is no two ways about it.
You think that's going to help? Or you think they're going to turn around and slug you too? You might call the police. If there's some way you can intervene and without getting hurt yourself, you might choose to do that, or you might choose to get hurt, to help someone else out. But mostly it's understanding that in that moment, that person's out of control. There is nothing you can do to make them see sense. You have to remove yourself from the situation. So this isn't about taking abuse. This is about recognizing that you have the power to walk away. You have the power to not let the words harm you. If someone's beating you up, all you can do is try to get away. If you can't get away, you're going to suffer. So what do you do then? So how can you work on your mind in those circumstances? You might not be able to do a thing at the time in terms of, because you're just reacting to the situation and you're scared. But after the fact, how can you look at when you've been harmed?
Karma.
Okay, so what does karma teach you?
Harmed somebody in the past and coming back, it's just cause and effect.
Yes, it's cause and effect.
So,
Is that blame? We've all created the cause to be beat up. You know, it's just probably not this life. So being able to recognize, does that excuse the other person's behavior? Is it like they've been given this permission, so please beat this person up because their karma is ripening? No, they're in it. They've also got their karma ripening. Venerable Rabina loves to say, not only have you hit someone in the past, you've hit that person in the past. That mental continuum existed in whatever body it was in, you beat them up in whatever body you were in. So we can, so using karma, that's one, so we look at cause and effect. What's another thing we can use? How can we use bodhicitta?
You can look at it as suffering and extend your mental thinking to try to bring joy to them and love.
Well, bringing joy might be impossible because again, we can't change, it's really about us being a condition for not harming, so that we can not harm them back. And calling the police is not harming.
Is it ever a rhetorical question? But if you're being beaten up, to slug that person because you're trying to defend yourself and stop the.
I mean, it's a choice you can make. If you can slug someone back and have absolutely no animosity there, that it's just coming from a place of trying to stop them from doing harm, then that won't have any karmic repercussions for you. How likely is that? Probably not, unless you're a bodhisattva already, and this is not saying that you don't have the right to defend yourself. It's about karmic choices,
Isn't the lesson if you're able to subdue your disturbing emotion when somebody does harm to you? And I mean, if you don't get that upset or have such a strong hatred towards the person, that person doesn't accumulate that much negative karma.
Nope, has nothing to do with their karma. Only they can create their own karma. It's you.
So if you harm somebody, a sentient being, doesn't the level of that being suffering
That affects your karma.
Okay.
So, you torture an infant, that's really heavy negative karma, especially if it's I don't know. Like if you torture your parents, that's a field of merit, your parents, because they have the reason why you're a human. You've got a human body. So, that's a really heavy kind of merit because not only, if you kill them, you've got killing karma. If you've tortured them, that's really bad. That makes it heavier. It's just like our legal system, it makes the crime heinous or whatever, but it's only your karma. The other person's exhausting some sort of negative karma. So if you get beat up, you are exhausting your whatever you created the cause to be beat up. Okay, so you're exhausting that. If you actually say, oh, I really regret that I've treated people like this in the past because it's so harmful, you actually can purify your past actions of harm. That has even more power, and you certainly, so then you wouldn't be repeating it. And if you can do, like I said, how sometimes, I mean, I don't know if this is true anymore because I learned this years ago, that if a child is acting out and, that you try to hug them so that you're holding their arms so that they can't hitting the wall or hitting another person or something. So you intervene, but because you're, this is on the assumption because you're the adult, you're bigger than they are, you're able to do this, You know, so they, you know, so you're protecting them that way. You know, nobody says it's okay to hit them back. We got to think about that. If we're not willing to do it to a child, why are we willing to do it to anybody else? We see children as defenseless. Someone who's out of control is equally defenseless. Most of the time it's us. We're just not beating someone up with our, you know, disturbing emotions. We might be thinking about it, you know, yeah.
So I know in the book, I can't remember if it's the one you're talking about or not, it says something about, no, I would not kill the person. Yes, I would defend myself, but.
Yeah, you really want to think about, yes, exactly.
As I meditate on that, I'm like, God, I'm not there. I'm like,
Yeah, of course.
Like, you're gonna kill me, I'm gonna kill you first.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find that, but I'm not. Defend my family, I will put you down to try to kill me. You know, like,
You don't even want to practice that though.
right.
You just, you know you're not there yet. You know, and it's okay you're not there yet. But it's grasping at the eye. You know, because if you get killed, you're going to be reborn, and you know, you can't be, in a sense, you can't be killed. You know, if you fight back and you die in that process and you're angry, that's a terrible mind to have at the time of death.
So the way I extended my thought, I should have just stopped at I'm not there yet and not continue to think those other defensive thoughts because it would recreate.
You're practicing them. Yes.
Okay.
You're justifying in your mind that it's okay that I'm not there yet because I would defend my family, I would defend my kids, I would defend, you know, blah, 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 not as nauseating, you know.
So the bottom line is we don't hold a grudge and we don't be a fence sitter as well. We just take the appropriate action and just step back.
Yeah. And we try not to make a story out of it. You know, we don't even know their story. We don't know what's going on with them. Yeah.
So what creates more karma? The actual act of attacking someone or the 3 years of going over in your head?
That one will actually create more, the 3 years going over in your head, because you're practicing it continuously for a time, over time. You know, there's no question that resentment is a stronger form of anger. You know, but as far as, I don't know, I'm not a Buddha, you know, whether, you know, it's what's worse, you know, getting mad quickly and then, you know, they're both this disturbing emotion. You certainly don't want to practice it. So better not to do anything, you know, have rage arise, do nothing, and don't keep rehearsing it in your mind about how justified you were to be mad. That doesn't help at all. You know, we need to take responsibility because no one makes us angry. You know, people can do outrageous things and we can tell ourselves again and again, anybody would be angry. And that might be true, but have you noticed the world's a mess? Maybe we need to try to change the way we think. You know, how many wars do we need to recognize that killing each other isn't like a skillful strategy? You know, I mean, it just makes you weep, the thought. I mean, you know, sometimes you just read the news and it's like, oh my God, how can we hurt each other this way? It's just unbelievable. But it starts with these minds. It isn't that we all start to be a mercenary soldier. I guess there's probably other kinds of mercenaries, but you know, we're not born like that. But we develop this mind that thinks that, you know, it's okay to earn a living by, you know, killing other people. It starts with that mind that says, okay, I'm gonna just slug you back. Because I can. You know, we want to think about that.
How about in the Jataka tales when Buddha was on
Boat.
Sapaboom, they had to kill the.
He didn't have to. He chose to. Why did he choose to?
Because he didn't want the captain to accumulate the negative karma.
Right. He did it for him. He didn't do it for the 200 people on the boat that the captain was planning on killing. He did it for the captain so he wouldn't accumulate that negative karma. You have to be a high-level bodhisattva to be able to have the wisdom to know what that's the right thing to do. We have to be very careful with those stories of not inflating our own sense of wisdom to think, oh, I can emulate the Buddha. Because probably not, you know. See,
Story of the law,
Yep.
Archer would say, now subduing and pacifying people and
yeah,
and all these horrible events.
that's to let you know that if you develop your mind, you will actually have the wisdom, like a bodhisattva, you know, because when the Buddha was that bodhisattva, he was able to see that person's future lives. So based on that information, he was able to make a decision that was going to serve him well, that person. You know, but you have to have that ability. You know, if you can't read people's minds, if you can't see their past and future lives, you know, you don't know what the karmic consequence is going to be. You know, it's really, it's, you know, so we have to be careful. You know, those stories are not to teach us, oh, guess what you get to do in the future. It's all about that, you know, that one's about compassion for the harm doer. You know, we only have compassion for the people who get harmed. But the truth of the matter is the person who's being harmed is exhausting some negative karma. The person doing the harm's creating new negative karma so they'll suffer in the future. So that's one way to think about karma, you know, to use it when we have problems and difficulties. So, oh, well, I'm exhausting something that I created the cause for. Yes.
Say like you're letting them do that.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say letting them do that to you.
Well, I meant about the exhausting karma.
I didn't say letting them do that to you. You have nothing to do with that part. They're doing it to you. It's not before the fact, oh, let me go into this, you know, so that I can exhaust some karma about getting beat up. No, you can't, that's being a condition for, you know, of trying to provoke someone to hitting you is also creating negative karma.
What do you mean by exhausting karma?
When something negative is happening to you, that seed, that negative seed is ripened and you're experiencing its suffering result. It will end.
So does that affect my past?
Yeah, well, that seed's gone. It'll never ripen for you again. If you've created lots and lots of seeds to get beat up, it doesn't do anything with that. It just exhausts that one seed. If you purify it with regret by thinking, I've done this, I've treated someone else this way in the past, probably more than once, you know, and have genuine regret for the harm you have done, you know, that can cause those seeds not to ripen in the future.
So the point is to control our mind and thereby control our action.
Yep, and it takes a lot of, you know, effort.
The extreme examples are always a good reminder that, wow, I need to work with these minor grievances because as I'm contemplating, it takes a lot of wisdom or strength to be able to handle these with wisdom.
Yeah, it does. And then also, I mean, it's just that kind of thing. Like one of the things that I find extremely helpful, and you may not, I don't know, you know, I find it really helpful that when some negative karma is ripening for me to really think about if I continue whatever was the cause for that, see, what's the extreme of that? You know, this, like I've shared before, you know, that when I was a teenager, I was really, you know, not really quite the feminist, but I would have been if I'd been a couple of years older, you know, because I just missed that era. But I really felt guys had just a better deal. You know, my father clearly had a better deal in the family. You know, my brothers were definitely treated better than I was, you know, all this kind of stuff, you know, and it just wasn't fair. And it wasn't fair and wasn't fair. You know, and then, you know, you kind of realize, oh, what does that create the cause for?
well, you either become a dictator and start killing people.
Right. That's where it leads. You become the Hitler that says, oh, all these people have to we have to get rid of them. Because I don't like them. They're in my way. That's exactly where it ends up. We can all feel all very comfortable. At least I'm not Hitler. Well, is your mind going there? That's what we want to know. And so when we have those thoughts of like, I killed them, blah, blah, we need to check that mind, and go, really? Is that really what you think? And of course, good news is right now, probably not. We don't want to practice it, especially if we justify it in our mind as well. Because then it's like, oh, justifiable homicide. We can get really good at that. Again, I'm not judging people who have done those actions. I'm just saying that we want to look at our minds before we're in that situation. So we can maybe have some wisdom. Yeah.
It's usually because there's some psychology that say Westerners recover better and stuff like that, that come with these philosophies. And now I'm starting to understand it better because what the quote was is, I have something to learn from this. So they would actually heal better. But I didn't have this knowledge to go, oh, that's what they were saying. They're like, hey, this is an old seed. I get to breathe, get this off my, and
yep.
So I'm putting more knowledge to.
Yep. Yeah, that's why study is helpful. Really, I mean, the Buddhist teachings, taking just little pieces here and little pieces there are helpful. But when you really see how they fit together it can really inspire you to make the decision. Okay, I'm going to try to, get a handle on this mind or handle on my speech, be more helpful, whatever it is, whatever that thing is. Another, so we can use bodhicitta by really thinking about this person's creating the cause for more suffering in their actions, and have compassion for their negative, for them committing these negative actions, get out of the way, don't be the target, but then we can also think about, when we've created those kinds of causes and how, I don't want to end up there. So, I really hope I can try to, first of all, not be a condition for this to ripen for others. And what's the best way to not be a condition for this to ripen for others? Yeah, because if you react, you're placing a seed to have it happen to you, to happen again. So, and then using emptiness, using how reality actually is. And this gets back to this idea of insult, a problem, is looking at really, why do I call it an insult? What is that saying to me? Really looking at the word, really thinking, okay, is it an insult? Is it just because that's it has done this to my reputation, and so that qualifies as an insult, but if I call it an insult, what does that do to me? What harm does that cause me? Do I really want to label this an insult? It's like labeling something
taking it in.
problem.
I'm sorry, I interrupted. You're taking it in.
Yes.
And
that
insult means you're literally taking it into yourself.
Is that what an insult means?
I don't know. That's my take on it.
Good. Something in. It's like you're taking the stick and going, let's go inside and beat myself up more with it, So it's true. I mean, when we want to really look at that. So one of the things that we can do is play with the word problem, when we have a problem, and really look at, what makes it a problem? Did it come as a problem? Or is it the way I'm thinking about it, make it a problem? That when did it become a problem? 5 years from now, would I look back and see it as a problem? It's just, we really want to see how we allow language to manipulate us. We're doing it ourselves, of course, because it's our conception of the word, or the expression. Somebody rolls their eyes at us, You know, we interpret that in a certain way. We may be spot on. We may know exactly what they're thinking. You know, we won't be able to verify that, but you know, we might be spot on. But the point is, does it have any meaning? Does it really, I mean, you know, okay. And it's outrageous to think, isn't it? That, oh, no, it doesn't really have any meaning to me. I mean, apparently it means something to them. You know, that's why they rolled their eyes. But I don't have to have it mean anything to me. Yes.
I was thinking as we're talking about the meaning, when it becomes survival. For
Mhm.
instance, always think about our brain is always going back to survival, right? So
Yeah, that's
you
our
have
ignorance. Yep.
a report from your boss. They say 10 nice things, you're gonna focus on the one that was bad.
Yeah. That's a habit though.
And then also, if you're shunned by your family,
Yep.
then it's a tribal, you want to
Yep.
belong to the tribe, so your brain starts.
So that's all about self-grasping.
Yeah.
So what the Buddha would say is we have that kind of brain that you know that said that has to worry about survival because this human body is fragile. You know, that's true. You know, Buddha's bodies aren't fragile. You know, their bodies are light. Can't harm them. You know, we've created this body out of self-grasping. So this sense of self-preservation is a physical extension of that self-grasping. It's manifesting in the fact that we're in a vulnerable physical body that can be killed. Our mind can't be killed. You know, but it's our self-grasping that creates the cause to have such a gross physical body that can be killed.
And somebody's after you that you're not reacting and they are motivated. Yeah, I'm gonna fight with you today. How are you
I don't know. I hope I never find out. Well, I mean, that's the point. The point is working with our minds to understand it's okay if I die. Because my mind continues. Yep.
You're actually very skilled in self-defense. A good martial artist will tell you to start to defend yourself, you control the conversation.
Yeah.
Then you step back or you run forward.
That's right. Martial artist masters are not starting a fight. They do everything they can to diffuse the situation. You know, we don't have to use these things as a form of aggression. But this is that instinct. We call it instinct. The Buddha would say it's habit. And guess why you have this vulnerable body? You know, it's this self-grasping that we think it's okay to kill someone else to protect this body. Well, so we're in a world where we can do that. Perhaps when we create the mind that doesn't think it's okay ever to kill some other living being's body, maybe we'll be born in a place that our bodies aren't vulnerable. You know, but the definition of cyclic existence is birth, death, rebirth. But we live in a place, we live in a world where the length of our lives is indefinite. It's approximately 100 years, but we can die in the womb. You know, we can die as a 2-year-old, we can die as a 117-year-old, you know, it's indefinite. But there are also worlds where you live 1,000 years. But you still die. It's still samsara. It's still the nature of suffering.
What I really like about this is that, you know, this like Buddhist psychology, it can, in this lifetime, lead to a healthy mind, and creating that habit of mind can help in the mainstream, right, to create healthier, you know, ways of thinking in future lives.
That's exactly right. We take care of our mind in this life, take care of our actions of body and speech. In this life, we create the cause to have another good rebirth with good conditions. We keep practicing some more, And one of the most important moments of mind is at the time of death of each life. So the more that we can have the habit of having a pretty peaceful mind that doesn't get flustered by whatever's happening, the more likely it is at the time of death, it'll also be a peaceful mind that's not tends to be flustered at, whatever's happening. And that's a good condition to have a good rebirth.
So one day we're all.
I don't know, depends. We have to do the work. We don't do the work. Samsara doesn't end. It doesn't have a deadline. Samsara ends, or cyclic existence ends when we end it, each of us individually. So the more we can understand it, so, the fact that our actions affect other people, just like their actions affect us because we're not Buddhas yet. The more that we can appreciate what's in it for them. We don't want to be a condition for others to want to do harm because they're stuck here too. And samsara will just keep on going. But we can't fix them. If Buddhists could, if you could do that, Buddhists would have already done it. We'd all be, enlightened and, there wouldn't be a samsara. But it's not possible for someone else to change our minds. Only we can do that. And this ignorance, this grasping at this false self is at the root of it all. So every time we catch ourselves thinking that, I need to be perceived this way, or I am this way, I'm not that way, we need to kind of try to dismantle that, to understand that nothing exists like that. The causes and conditions have come, and countless causes and conditions have come together. It's not just like last week. It's not like, oh, I made the decision to come to class today, and that was the cause for me showing up. That's one of the causes for you showing up, but it's one of millions that had to come together. So worrying about them doesn't help. It's more just like, let me take care of this moment. It's like, okay, you take the one day at a time attitude and you shrink it down to one mental event at a time. So the more that we can be aware of each of what's going on in our inner world, our thoughts, are we keeping our mind, peaceful, or are we agitating it, and trying to do more of the peaceful and less of the agitation, the odds are much better for us to have less suffering in the future. Yes.
Apply to our relationship with our applicants. That's simple. Traction for companies. And I feel
You've got a karmic connection with them.
And so is it so am I to then, they come, and I recently did rescue and took care of one group, but am I to feed them? Am I to just?
This should depend. I can't make those. The teachings don't say this is the right thing to do in this circumstance.
So
I really wish they did.
So what do we use? Just our own wisdom?
Wisdom. You have to bring wisdom to it. And you're going to make mistakes because you're not a Buddha yet.
So it isn't like a karmic thing.
Yes, it is. Every thought we have places a seed on our mental continuum. Every karmic seed has a potential to ripen as a result. So yeah, it's a karmic thing. So you want to choose according to how you understand is the best thing to do for your karma and the cat's karma. But not that you could affect the cat's karma, but you want to be a good condition for the cats, maybe. I mean, that's, that's the decision you have to make. And the fact that they're attracted to your yard probably means you have some karmic connection with those cats.
She was a cat, probably.
Well, maybe, but maybe it's just that, maybe they've been your pets in the past, and so they're attracted to you. Maybe they, think, oh, there's that person. She owes us. and they're showing up, and so, there's no way only Buddhas can know, or high bodhisattvas can know what's the good action to take. We have to just do the best we can and learn from our mistakes, learn from our, successes, just, and not get paralyzed by not knowing what to do. That doesn't help. That's where doubt can be an affliction. Yeah.
Is the ultimate goal to ensure a good rebirth or to not be reborn? And
The ultimate goal is to not be reborn and be a Buddha.
And would it be fair to say that good karma also creates more karma of good karma?
Yeah.
And any act that we do,
All acts we do create the cause for either suffering or happiness.
how does one end it?
You have to realize emptiness. You have to have a direct understanding of how things actually exist. And you have to perfect the minds of compassion, all the good stuff. You have to remove all obstacles to omniscience. Now, you can get out of samsara before then, but it takes realizing how things exist. And not just intellectually, but to have an experience of how things actually exist. And you can get out. And then you can choose to be born in a samsaric existence just to help others, to create the cause to become omniscient. Study more. But yeah, we definitely can get out. I mean, that's the whole point, is that we can end suffering. Suffering can end. That's one of the noble truths. There's suffering, there's a cause of suffering. Suffering can end, and there's a way to do it. It's just not easy. But it's better than this. Somebody else had their hand up, I think. You did.
No, I just, when I heard her talking about the cats and all that, and oh my God, as a practitioner, I don't know about everybody else in here, but oh my God, animals are just such a great way to accumulate such great karma, feeding them, caring for them, reciting mantras.
And understanding
it's a great opportunity. Oh my God.
And understanding it's a lower rebirth. So really having compassion for animals, knowing that their mind does not have a sophisticated physical support for them to become enlightened or to end their suffering. So, wanting to be like the cat is not really using your wisdom, because they're at your mercy. And just like bulldogs or whatever, pit bulls are going through, they have a bad reputation right now. So, people kill them, pythons, you don't want to be a python. You don't want to be a python in an invasive, in Florida, so, animals, it's a lower realm rebirth. So having this kind of fantasy about, now domestic pets have a pretty good rebirth for an animal in general, unless you're just, you're the pet of someone who just sees you as a weapon. And so they just chain you in the yard and never take care of you. Yep.
Question for you. As I've been walking and accepting more of what you're saying over time, I have discovered something unusual about animals too. Now, as I'm walking and meditating, and I have birds that land right next to me, or I'm walking past squirrels and they don't even move. And everything just seems to stay still and just let me pass by without that. It's very strange how all these.
It's not strange.
It's not okay. All right, because these animals just are not like running to get out of my way. They're all
And then who knows what it is? It may be that you have slowed down enough to notice They may not change their behavior at all, but you're actually seeing them all, you know? It can also be that you're walking with a more peaceful atmosphere and that has an effect on them. But let's not make a story up about it. Enjoy it, you know, but it's just, I hear people say, oh, since I quit killing mosquitoes, none of them bite me. Well, how fabulous is that? But, don't think that that's direct cause and effect, we need more wisdom than that. So it's a nice, sure, it's a nice bonus. So it's, but it shows you that agitating things, like they say with bees or something, that if you're still, they're not going to mess with you, So, but some things will mess with you, whether you agitate them or not, like hornets or something, they're crocodiles. Yeah. So, we don't want to make a fantasy story. Like, we don't want to think, oh, I am so serene that I can go hang out in Northern Australia by the crocodile beds and none of them will eat me. That would be stupid. It's not like that, As long as we're in samsara, we created the cause to pretty much be killed by everything, because we've had life after life after life, and every time we're sick, we can be reminded, oh, I must have hurt something, someone in a previous life, because that's the cause for illness, So it's just, and we go up, down, like we've all developed karma binding, just this mind that can stay focused on its object for as long as you want, no matter what you're doing, for 300 years. You can keep your mind on, we've all done that. We just haven't become enlightened. We haven't used these tools for what they can really, how they can really serve us, which would be to end our suffering, So we don't want to exaggerate the benefits of our practice. We also don't want to act like they having no effect. It is having an effect, and enjoy it while it's happening, And notice when you like one of the things I find really interesting is when I don't practice, if I skip a day of practice, which I never do because I have commitments, but theoretically, in my mind, I skip days and, okay, my mind wasn't really present for my practice. The day's not the same. I've become accustomed to thinking about things from this point of view, and that's that just makes my day better. So, okay, we're out of time. Really, it's that time. Is Nicole still there? No. Any announcements for today? Anybody got announcements?
So next Sunday will be the last teaching of becoming your own therapist. And then in April, we'll have a teaching with Paula Chichester. She'll be teaching on Saturday and Sunday. You'll find that on the calendar. And then afterwards, we'll start Conversations That Matter again for the rest of April through May. And then check out the calendar for more events. Discovering Buddhism continues, and Module 3 starts as well in April.
So keep in touch on the calendar. Y'all will all be in my prayers during my retreat. That doesn't mean you'll all be cured of whatever. It's my mind. So it's not going to have that much power. So yes, I'll return in June.
We'll share that information with everyone
when it develops.
Yes.
Well, I think we're going to probably go through the book. We're going to talk about the subject matter of the book, how to see yourself as you really are. His Holiness's little practice. It's a practice book. It's mostly about, how to think about, so we're not grasping onto this false I, so we can have, start, being kind of open to this emptiness thing.
Might need some. Everything.
Yes. Yeah. So we have 2 months, so kind of keep it in your mind. They might need my physical labor, when we shrink, physically shrink. I'm not physically shrinking. So, yes, I wish I was just, I'm becoming more and more gross. It's like, this is not the direction I'm meant to go in. But anyway, okay. So now take a moment to rejoice. You know, you made a decision to come, you came, you know, you participated, and the way I mean, it's just like you thought about it and you thought, oh, I don't think that's true. Or, you're investigating, you're thinking that's the whole point. That's how we develop wisdom. My favorite thing, my teacher was that, that from confusion comes wisdom. So don't worry about being confused, just keep searching, keep studying, keep learning, so. So we want to dedicate the positive results, like you were talking about, there is positive karma, the positive results from our positive actions to be of benefit to others. Now, they can't actually ripen for others. The main beneficiary of all our bodhicitta thoughts is us. We benefit. By practicing the mind that wants to benefit others, that's always thinking of others, is what creates the cause to be a Buddha who spontaneously and effortlessly helps others. So it's because they have omniscience, they'll know exactly what's needed. They can manifest. There's all kinds of things, of anything, a bridge, So it's a lot of people will say, oh, but I really can't think of benefiting all sentient beings, but yeah, well, you'll never be able to benefit all sentient beings if you don't start practicing that mind that wants to. If we don't develop that habit, we'll never want to. So it's that simple. All right. So may all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer. It's on page 246. We're waiting for Gladys. That's all right, 246. We didn't say what page it was. Okay. Where are we? Obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then for the long, healthy, happy lives of our teachers, for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, that's on page 244. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you were the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain till samsara ends. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who service the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjana's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please live on. So are you curious why His Holiness is the source of all happiness and good? Da, da, da.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, of course, to the Tibetans see the Dalai Lama as the reincarnation or as the manifestation, actually, it's a better word, of Chenrezig, the Avalokiteshvara, Guan Yin, the goddess or god of or bodhisattva of compassion. But mainly it's this idea that we can only find happiness from a teacher. A teacher has to teach us. We have to, and His Holiness provides the teachings, for all the Tibetans. And so some student writes these prayers, thinking about that teacher. So same with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, someone, a student wrote the prayer. So it's like that. But so it's, so that's why it's not, like he goes around with a magic wand. It's because he provides the teachings and we try to integrate them. We create the cause for our happiness. Okay, how's everybody at home? Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thank
See
you,
you next-
Tenji. Wonderful
you.
class. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nicole. All right. That's it.
All right,
Thank
thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
I said I could have turned around the screen, but I didn't.